Yours first.
Desolation. That are one. She the storm cruelty. The abyss. We.
Death, take
Alright guys, this is the build guide for my Critical Shield Infernalist. Just so you guys know, I am not a YouTuber, I'm not used to talking into my computer screen, and I am kind of just winging this without a script. So we're going to see how this goes. So I do have a Mobalytics build guide up. If you'd like to look at the written version, I did put a lot of time into that. You can check it out. I'll have a link in the comments below. Right now, since I don't really use my YouTube channel too much, it doesn't let me put links in the description, so I'll comment below with that link. Alright, so Critical Shield Infernalist. First thing, why Infernalist? So, we are using a bunch of crit damage, is the short answer. Infernalist has a lot going for that, especially if you're using an attack-based build and not a spell-based build. So you have Grinning Immolation. This is just 50% more critical damage bonus. This Become Ignite when you deal a critical hit. We basically fix that with just a single charm. This actually becomes kind of a boon because you'll get constant guard. I'll show that later in the gear. Bringer of Flame. This causes all our physical damage and chaos damage that we have to ignite. Fairly strong, stronger than a lot of people expect, especially for the clear tech. So if you do have clear and it hits the edge of the screen and doesn't quite kill something, a lot of times they'll actually just end up burning to death instead. So that is the main reason we're taking that. Altered Flesh, this is just a defensive and we need to take it to get to the next node here. And that is, you can actually do either two. So right now I have a Midas Will for the Spirit. You could also take this one here too, that's fine, that gives you extra ES. The main reason that you're taking one of these two nodes here is not actually for the extra stats, either ES or Spirit that it's giving you. It's actually to make sure you're reserving 25% of your life, which allows you to take this noble up here called Pain Attunement, which gives us even more crit damage, which is the main thing our build is built around. Now you can do this build on a warrior. I'm actually in the process of leveling a warrior up to test a bunch of things out. I've seen some really good shield warriors. I think they're definitely more budget friendly. So if you do have some concerns about how expensive this build is, whether or not you'll be able to build it, I would actually recommend most people checking out the warrior version, because that's going to be easier, smoother, cheaper for most people. But if you are really wanting to push it, if you are really wanting those big boom screen clearing resonating shields, I do not think, at least at this point until I test it out, that the warrior has that capability. Okay, so that's Infernalist. I would say just check the Mobalytics for the full passive tree. I'm not going to go over too much of that here. I'm just going to hit the main things. As I mentioned, crit damage is the main thing we're focusing on. Best part of the tree for that is over here in the monk area. So we're going over here to the right, picking up all these crit damage nodes. Because we're using Nebulock, which I'll go over in the gear section later, we are skipping all the crit chance nodes, and you're just making a beeline to the ones that give you damage. As we're pathing up here, we're taking some ES nodes. That is our main defense here. Patient Barrier, of course. This is worth noting here. This is the Heroic Tragedy. I'll mention it in the gear section too, but you just want to slot this in. It doesn't matter what it says as far as this number here, but you do want to make sure it says Varana. And all this does is you put it in here, and it makes this keystone turn into this black scythe training, and basically it gives us a bunch of energy shield for our strength, which would otherwise be mostly useless. Other jewel here that's worth mentioning is this Control Metamorphosis. This just lets you select passives without pathing to them in this ring here. In this case, you want this medium-sized ring. This actually got, this actually got a buff. This patch, a few things moved around. Before, the main thing, and still the main thing you're taking it for, is this node here. And then you just get some extra stuff. Like, you don't really care about the fin with armor, but 20% ES. This node is really good for our build because we're igniting, things are on fire, more crit damage. This is pretty generic, just 25% increase in attack damage, that's good. But this patch, they actually have these two here. So you're always going to be critting, so you can actually get Arcane Surge easily with this now. Right now I have that just to make mana easier, not having to press your mana pause much. And then this is an amazing add, this patch. I'm not using this for Resonating Shield, but on the swap, when you're using Shield Wall, you are empowering your attacks and gaining an extra 15% of physical damage, which Shield Wall is extra fire, is amazing. Oh, and one other funny thing, I'm not taking this, but it is funny seeing this node. Somebody at GGG had to have looked at my build last week because nobody else was doing this, and nobody else would even think this would be a worthwhile node. But yes, if you're going Infernalist and you need to have a way to remove Ignite easily, and you're doing some type of weird warrior thing like I am, you have this node that can remove Ignite when you walk right. And then the rest of it, you're just passing down to warrior here. This node really strong, and then you're picking up AoE, crit damage, blah 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 blah. If you are not, I'm at level 95 right now. If you're not that high level, I would just go down to here, and then don't worry about any of these points down here until you level up further. Nothing too crazy down there. You may have to shift a couple of these stun threshold nodes up into here until you're able to pick them up in the warrior side. Okay, so that is passive. I will briefly now mention our gearing and kind of just the main interaction here. This is Nebulock. Right now I do have a skin transfer, so ignore that part. Nebulock has this one line here, which is attacks consume an endurance charge to critically hit. This is really, really strong, specifically for shield skills. This is one of the main things I was playing around with last patch. Because your shield skills scale off the armor value on your shield here, and not on the super low value on Nebulock, you can just scale your damage on your shield and always critically hit. I would not be surprised if this gets changed at some point. I was kind of actually surprised it was still around this patch. I expected them to add some line that said like attacks with this weapon consume an endurance charge to critically hit, which would basically kill Nebulock, so I hope they don't do that. But we'll see. For now, the interaction is still here. Nothing else on Nebulock matters. The crit damage there, that does not apply to your this right here. This does not apply to all your shield skills, so it doesn't matter what this value is. You don't need to pay more for a high value one. All that added damage does nothing. And the take 100 chaos damage, we mitigate that mainly through the charm and some regen. But you don't need to worry too much about the downside. Once you have your chaos res, it's actually not that big of a deal. So we're always, well not always, but most of the time, critically striking with our shield skills. The main skill I'm using here is Resonating Shield. Now, this is a bit of an odd choice because it is not meant to be a damaging skill. The reason we are using Resonating Shield is just because it's easy. It already breaks armor, so you can put in armor break, and then it'll break more armor based on its physical damage. Then when it breaks that armor, it gets an endurance charge. A lot of people are doing this to combo something after you get those endurance charges, but I wanted to just immediately spin those charges and blow everything up. So that is why we're using Resonating Shield. You could try making a build that does something with a shield charge. There are ways you can do something similar, get endurance charges with shield charge. That will be easier to scale. I just personally find it to be a little bit clunky to use, even with, right now I have about 50% increased speed on it between my supports and the passive tree. Looks like that, it's not bad. Resonating Shield looks like this. The nice thing about it is you can scale area of impact, and it does go all the way around your character. So you can just leap into a pack here, run into a pack, hold it down for a second, and that just blows everything around the screen up. Versus Shield Charge, it's in front of you, right? Same with Shield Wall. It's like it has large AoE, but it's only in front here. It doesn't go behind. Resonating Shield, very low damage until you scale it up, but it does go 360 degrees around. Okay, the other item we need to talk about is Trample Toe. A lot of people on Reddit have said correctly that a lot of build showcases are actually just Trample Toe showcases. This is correct. This would be another item that I would expect them to change at some point with how it works. Because going forward, if damage keeps going up, this is just always going to be a solution to screen clear, to AoE clear. Basically, as you scale your damage higher and higher up, at the same time just scales your screen clear higher and higher up because you're hitting for more and doing more overkill damage, and that just propagates further and further. The main interaction that I figured out this league, because we did lose a bunch of damage compared to what I was doing last patch, is that you want to try and get some damage as extra, and preferably damage as extra chaos damage. So Mings has that here. There is also this rune here, gain 13 damage as extra chaos. Chaos is preferable just because most monsters have lower chaos resistance as opposed to others, and we're not really messing. We're doing physical and chaos, so we're not really messing with lowering resistances or worrying about any of that. Mings can be hard to fit in. I'll actually have a section on the video in that later. That'll be kind of like one of your in-game goals, last goal when you're building the characters, to try and fit this in. But it is not necessary for it to function, but it will be what enables it to blow up the entire screen. And just to go over what's happening with that quickly, the reason it works so well is you're getting the damage to extra chaos on the Resonating Shield itself, but then that triggers the overkill damage of Trample Toe, and as best as I can tell, then that Trample Toe damage is also getting the extra damage as chaos. So that just, it's a multiplier. It multiplies your screen clear further and further the more of it you get. You can also see the same effect without Mings or any of this extra stuff. If you have Trample Toe equipped on most builds and you go and click a shrine, one of the fire shrines, lightning shrines that give you extra damage, you'll see your screen clear just jumps way, way up. And then as far as the other two uniques on the build, you have Coward's Legacy. This is just what enables our low life tech, so we're only at 75%. We're always reserving 25% life at 75% life. So this just enables us to be at low life all the time. Very strong, especially this patch. They added more support for low life. And then defensives, we don't have a great way to restore our energy shield. About the only way I've found to slot it in this build is to use the gloves here, and it just converts your life leech to energy shield leech. I do have one life leech roll on my ring here. If you can't get that, you can slot in the support, but just try and get it on one of your rings. This is actually not as strong as it seems. Pretty weak sometimes, but because we are using an AoE attack as our main skill, and because we do have it skilled up where it's hitting pretty damn hard, it does end up working out. There's no way to modify Energy Shield Leech anywhere on the tree, any items, so there's no crazy tech that you can do with this. It's just basic leech. Okay, other gear pieces, you just need resist and high ES. That's really all there is about it. Helm, you can see here, it's not even that good. In my stash, I have another helm I'm working on. You just need ES, some life is nice. We don't want to get too low, so 1 life. Roll on any of your gear pieces is nice, and then the resist, same for the chests here. Ring, same, resist, you do need 1 life leech roll. I just kind of randomly crafted this, it's not anything crazy. You do want a accuracy roll, probably, but you could get away without having this too. You don't really need this either, but it rolled when I did the desecration, so I took it. And then I yellow corrupted a bunch of these, trying to see if I get something decent. And this was the best one, but this piece could definitely be improved on. Amulet, because we're using Nebulok, there's only a few gear pieces that can get this level of all melee skills. You definitely want this. Amulets aren't too bad to craft. You can look up a couple guides on YouTube. Again, you just need to fill out your resists. You want to make sure you have your level melee skills, and then I have Spirit just because I looked into rolling it. But the main thing you just want up here is defensive. So before I looked into this, I just had one that had, I think it was not a crazy ES roll, but some ES roll up there. And then charms. The important one is right here. This is the Dousing Charm. You want one that looks exactly like this. It needs to have tier 1 guard, and it needs to have increased charges gained. This is the main thing when we're going through maps that is causing us to mitigate the self-ignite. It removes that self-ignite, and then it just gives you 500 guard at the top end. And that happens every few seconds. That's very strong. That also is the main way that Nebulok here is not really that big of an issue, because you're constantly getting this 500 guard proc every few seconds. And when you have your chaos res at 75%, you're not taking the full 100 for chaos damage per second on your endurance charges. That does get mitigated by resistances, and this guard just pretty much takes care of all of that. So when you go to build this build, this would be the #1 thing. I have the Allocates guide too. Make sure you get exactly this. If you can't find one on trade, you need to craft it yourself. Just start picking up white dowsing charms. Most of you guys, I'm sure, have some of the perfect currencies, just perfect orb of transmute, perfect orb of augmentation. You'll eventually get one. They're not too hard. There's not that many mods that can roll on these charms. Not many people want them. You do need a bleeding charm. After that, staunching charm. Again, you probably want a good one. So increased duration, increased charges gain. You don't need guard on this one because you're not always bleeding like you are with the self-ignite. You just want it up as much as it can be. So something like this. And then you just have freezing charm. You can put one of the unique charges and charms in here if you want, but I don't know. I open strong boxes up most often, and I think I picked this up in campaign, and I haven't even bothered anything else. I just have it on there basically for that. Don't need to worry about your life flasks or mana flasks. Just Again, I think I picked these up in campaign and haven't even looked or touched them since. Maybe I've switched out life flasks. But you're such low life that it doesn't really matter. You do want to have one. There is that unique flask that affects rage. You can try using that. But I've found that you want to have just a normal life flask because every now and then you do have these small bleeds that kind of nick your health pool and you just want to be able to put it back up when you can. I think that is it for the gearing here. Let me go back to the passive tree and talk about the jewels. No surprise, as is the case with most in-game builds, whatever your main skill is, you want a Prism of Belief. This one, because nobody's using Resonating Shield, it was pretty cheap. I haven't checked today. When I checked yesterday, the +3 was like 5 div, and the +1, +2 were like whatever, just 1 or 2 div. You do need to have this. The important mod here is this instant leech. A lot of people are using this tech, especially on like Blood Mage. You need the leech's instant, preferably a decent roll on it, and then just pick up some good stuff. It can roll crit damage. Stun threshold is actually nice on this build. Increased energy shield. You either have the choice of this increased energy shield, or I would get one that has a damage gained as extra that can roll in this place instead. Megalomaniac here, not required. You could put a rare jewel in here. I have the mods you want in the mobalytics. But if you can find a decent one and you're starting to gear the character up, just try and find something that has attack damage, crit damage, area of effect. You can find some pretty decent ones for fairly cheap, just a few divs. I don't know what this one is now. I picked it up at the beginning of the league for a few divs. Yeah. I briefly mentioned Heroic Tragedy earlier. Just get one that has Verana, click the keystone. That's it. Put it in this slot. Lastly, you did have to put it somewhere else, but in this slot, it's nice because you just path through here and you, for 1 point, just get Black Scythe training. Mentioned Metamorphosis earlier too. Medium, try to get one that doesn't wreck your resistances. Example of a rare jewel here. Maximum energy shield, area of effect, crit damage. Yeah, stun threshold. And then on this one here, oh yeah, this one I got corrupted. Just rage. I need rage, and I got some attack damage. The presence area effect doesn't do anything. Okay, one thing I realized as I was wrapping the video up is that I didn't really go over the skills, so I'm going to go do that real quick here. I don't want this section to be too long, so we'll kind of go through it pretty quickly. So we do have Resonating Shield as our main skill. Main thing here is the Armor Break 3 support, breaks armor, and you have the Endurance Charge gain on this support, very important. Close combat is just more multiplier. You have Execute 3, it's basically just more multiplier. Anybody who's doing low life builds are running these, it's in most of my skills. Super critical, this is also in a lot of the skills. So because we are using Nebula to proc the always crit, we do want this increased critical damage bonus, and the less critical hit chance doesn't really matter. And then lastly here you do have a magnified area for more area of effect. This is what I use in most maps, but if you are running super juice content or your gear is not up to the level where it can have that much stun threshold because your energy shield isn't high enough, you can put in Steadfast 2. That does help quite a bit. Next up here you do have a Magma Barrier. This isn't too important, this just gives us some endurance charges while mapping every now and then. You do have a charge perfusion here, there, that sometimes just gives you an extra charge, which is nice. And then you just have some stuff that gives it more damage and then some more area. Only procs once every 8 seconds, but when it does, it can hit harder and do bigger screen clears than Resonating Shield can. Shield charge, I don't use this too much, to be honest. I thought about removing it. I do have exploit weakness in it in case I need to hit a boss and remove the armor break, so I can try reapplying it. It doesn't come up too often except when I'm lazy and just want to resonating shield to try and get a charge instead of doing the perfect strike, which is most of the time actually. Super critical, heft, rapid attacks, just because shield charge is a bit slow, and execute. Shield wall, this is our main damaging skills for pinnacle bosses and map bosses, so it just has a ton of more damage. Execute 3, super critical. Conk, if you're using shield wall for a mapping, you can swap this out for something else, but for bossing, this is going to be the best option. Overextend, this is a good one. Because we do have so much critical damage, this is another more multiplier to our critical damage bonus. The days, unless you're using it a lot in maps, it doesn't really matter. For bosses, it definitely doesn't matter. And then we just have close combat again, another more multiplier. Leap Slam, pure utility here. I do have a stun 3 here, so that's less damage but more stun buildup, and that is because we have Enduring Impact 2. This means that sometimes when we Leap Slam into packs of enemies, we do get a bunch of endurance charges. Execute 3 again, no surprise. And then Inhibitor, this is on here because we do not want our utility skill using our endurance charges. We just want it as a builder and to get around the map. And then lastly, Cadence. You'll never hit the cap on Cadence unless you have a lot of attack speed in your tree, which I don't, at least not for Leap Slam. So that just makes it smoother. Convalescence, I think I said in the Mobalytics guide that this is optional. It's probably not, especially as you're getting started with this build. You don't want to drop this. You do have cooldown recovery, and then you do have 2 supports here. You may or may not be able to fit these. They don't have to go in Convalescence. This is just going to be depending on your spirit costs, but you can put both Clarity 1, Dire Strike 1, and Clarity 2 and Dire Strike 2, but they do have to be in separate skills, so that's why that's like that. Infernal Cry here, I haven't really optimized this, to be honest with you, so we just have Tireless, Enraged War Cry, Raging Cry, and Efficiency just to make it cost less. I probably should look at that again, but it's not too important. It's only really for pinnacles and end of map bosses, and you don't even usually need it for that. Blasphemy support here too. This one is optional, but it is very helpful. So when you are able to get the spirit and fit into your gear, it does increase your numbers on your character, but it does really help on the defensive side of things. It has temporal chains in here, and it has slow potency just to make the temporal chains stronger. And then again, as I mentioned, it has the Clarity Dire Strike in here. The nice thing about these in here is that Blasphemy does have an increased reservation efficiency on its quality, and that does affect these supports that you socket in. So this doesn't actually cost 40 spirit. Take it out, you see I'm at 44 spirit, put it in. Doesn't bring me down to 4, brings me down to 8. And then lastly, Perfect Strike. Again, you can fill this out with whatever you want. It's probably going to end up more attack speed to make it smoother, but it's the only time I use it is for pinnacles. So the only important thing here is the Perfective Endurance, and then I do have this for some Rage on hit. Okay, so how does this build actually work? I'm just going to go run a map here. I tried to do a Citadel for the video, but it ended up being a Citadel in the desert biome, and it was a pretty bad showcase just because of how narrow that map is. So I think I found one that'll work pretty good. It has a boss, savanna, open area. I've got a pretty juiced map here, pack size, some rarity because it has the mark for death modifier on it. So let's just do this. Okay, there you go. There's all the map modifiers. When you first load the map, You don't have any endurance charges, so usually your first couple hits not going to do much, but it gets going right after that. So you're just going to walk around, jump around, hit your resonating shield, and that's basically it. On some of these maps, you will want to keep an eye on the heavy stun bar. That's that bar in the lower left corner. If they do have a lot of pack size, a lot of extra damage, even though we're not holding Resonating Shield, we're really just tapping it when we're next to the monsters. We're not really caring too much about the active blocking aspect of it, although we do get a little bit of bonus from that. If you have a tanky barrier, you can drop a shield wall like that. But yeah, keep an eye on that heavy stun bar. One of the downsides about being Infernalist versus Warrior is that there's a node on the Warrior side that causes the stun threshold bar to start dropping more quickly when you're in between packs. We do not get that. So even though it's not building up quickly at all here, it's still building up just because I'm going from pack to pack, immediately blowing everything up. Take off the overlay there for the video. I always forget about that. If the heavy stun threshold does start to build up too much, you either want to back off or just drop some shield walls and do some more fries. Let's see if I can show that here. Or it might just drop off here in between packs. Shield wall. Oh, yeah, see in the bottom of the corner how it's up there. So you probably just want to wait a bit. Now go. One of the unfortunate things about this build is that heavy stun. That is by far my #1 cause of deaths. It's just not paying attention to that. You can sock it in, I forget what it's called, that increases your heavy stun threshold while channeling Resonating Shield. You probably won't do that on some of these maps. But as you can see, for the most part, you're just kind of going into the middle of packs, tapping Resonating Shield, and everything dies. Let's see, is that the checkpoint the boss? No. Let's find the lower left there. It can lag a bit when you get these giant abysses and you're igniting everything, blowing everything up in the same frame. Again, we're waiting for our heavy stun drop there.
You there, local.
But yeah, it's pretty comfy build actually for Abyss. As you can see, as monsters jump out, they just die. My navigating of maps leaves much to be desired, I know. Okay, there's boss, go less for every two.
Death is my power to wield.
See if I can get this jump up on the cliff. It can be kind of hard to do sometimes. Yeah. Screw it. Actually messed up there. Whole block. The shield wall. Blow it up. Alright, so that's a pretty juice map. Again, have Mark for Death on it. Pack size. That is the preferred way I like to run the build. It is just large pack size maps. I haven't cared too much about rarity just because a lot of value you do get from trading. You can drop a bunch of white items, exceptional items, if you do have a bunch of pack size. No, it's not as good as juicing towers and getting all the quantity and rarity, so you get the currency drops on top of it, but it's more fun and keeps me engaged, so that's what we're going with. Alright, one thing that I know is going to come up is that this is too expensive to build. And yes, this is a high budget build, especially as you see on my character here. But you can run this playstyle without all this min-maxing. After all, I switched to trying to figure this build out around level 88, and I didn't have anywhere near this gear level or understanding of the build at that point. So you have two options. Number one that I'm going to recommend is just running a warrior version of this build. If you want a very budget-friendly option, this is the way to go. It will still delete bosses for you, it won't have as much screen-wide clear, and it probably won't have as much max hit, but it can be very tanky in its own way. Number two is this build still functions on lower gear levels. It just won't have the ridiculous screen clear, and you will have to pay more attention if your defenses are lower, obviously. So to show what that looks like, I'm going to remove a few things here. We're going to go ahead and remove Ming's ring. If this was your character, you would just have a ring here that has more defenses and resists. The second thing I'm going to do here is go and turn off Blasphemy. This is going to remove temporal chains. That's going to basically lower my defenses. It's also going to remove the 50% increased mana regen from Clarity here, and lower my attack damage by 70%, because we're also losing Dire Strike. You can see down here, we now have 120 Spirit. So if you don't have some of these Spirit rolls that are hard to get on necklaces or expensive to get on like a chest here with high ES, you do not have to have it, although it will be one of your goals you'll want as you're gearing this character up. And lastly here, one thing you can do too if you're at lower gear levels is there's steadfast support. You can actually go and swap this in, just go ahead and lose the area of effect here, take that out. So our area is going to be lower on Resonating Shield, but we are going to have more stun threshold. This does help a lot, especially if you are on lower gear levels. Now, I'm not going to try to run these delirious, insane pack size maps, extra damage maps, but let's go ahead, let's just try to do a tier 15 6 mod here. Make sure we don't get anything too crazy. We're looking out for if it has minus to player maximum resistances. This is still the mod you want to avoid. It actually has monster damage penetrates elemental resistances there. That's also the other mod you want to avoid. So let me go in here. I think I still have some of these left. These are Omens of Chaotic Quantity. When I'm rolling my maps, a lot of times this is what I use. They're pretty cheap, I think 1 to 2 EX. So let's activate that. Chaos Orb. Let's see. Oh, maximum resist again. Try again. Okay, that one looks safe enough, relatively, so let's see how this goes. Okay, this should be good enough to test it out on, and I'm going to shut up here and just run the map. Alright guys, for some reason I decided to turn up the game volume in this clip, so I've had to go ahead and just mute the audio for this portion of the video. I did commentate over a few things on this. The main one being just there was a point when I get to the abyss that you'll see when it comes up, they had to back off a bit because the heavy stun was building up quicker than it normally would with all my gear on. And the second thing I think I commented on that I do want to draw attention to is in this map, you do come across a shrine, and you do want to click on that and have shrines if you're running at a lower gear level, because once you get one of those shrines that adds damage, it is going to significantly increase your clear, which you'll see here in a second. All right, so in the meantime, I have added some stock background music, so enjoy that, and I'll catch you at the end of the video. Alright guys, that was the Critical Shield Infernalist build guide. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I am not a YouTuber, so I'm not used to doing this. I hope you're at least able to follow the guide, at least able to see what I was doing. Hope it was structured well enough that it wasn't confusing. Feel free to subscribe if you want to my channel. Again, I'm not a YouTuber, so I don't really care too much, but I do like PoE, I do like POE2, and I do like making these weird builds or builds that not very many people are doing, and I do like to push them as far as I can. Sometimes at the cost of all my currency that I kind of force it to work. But in this case, I think you can make this build work without going to this level that my guy's at here. I think this one turned out well enough, and I'm glad I at least tried making a guide here for it. Feel free to comment if you have any questions, or if you see something wrong in the build guide, or something's not clear in this video, let me know so I can help you guys out and fix it, at least in the mobile Edict guide. And again, I'll probably do more of these in the future, because I'm still having fun with Path of Exile 2, and when POE1 comes about, I'll be doing that as well. I don't know if I'll make a guide for that or not, but maybe. So if you're interested in all of that, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys later.